Welcome to Megapath Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and I got a bonus Q&A video for you. This question is just too big to keep in the Q&A 84, so we're going to do a separate, kind of like a bonus one. I got some free time today, so I'm trying to give you guys a few bonus videos. Hopefully we got 4 videos coming, if everything works out the way it should. Some bonus discussion videos. I'm trying something new. I'm looking into something. I don't want to say it yet though. Hold on, we'll discuss it when I know I'll be able to do it. Anyway, Bobby Haynes asks, if Negan kills someone other than Glenn, I'm having a tough time even imagining how Maggie's storyline will be affected when Glenn dies in the comic. It is a life-changing event for her whole world, as well as the Walking Dead storyline with the Hilltop and who she becomes, as well as what the Hilltop evolves into, and the events thereafter at the Hilltop. So I guess my question is, what do you predict or feel about this for the show's story staying somewhat true to the comic, and how will they even include Glenn into all the events that go on, because Maggie is the leader? Please help me, Hilltop leader. Please help me with this one. It's really bugging me, and I trust your predictions because you have such awesome ideas. First off, thank you very much. Second off, please, for the love of God, use periods. That is why I read that slow. I wanted to make sure it was smooth and slow, and I got the words right. I originally just had to re-record it because I tried reading it quick, as I always do with the normal long Q&A videos. Oftentimes, I try to read too quick, and I stumble over it, because it's illegal now apparently to use periods. I'm just joking, but seriously, use fucking periods. So Bobby, you asked, and I'm going to answer because, and this is why it's a separate video, I think this is a very cool discussion, and it's also very important not to forget all the story revolving around the comic characters. Comic Glenn and comic Maggie are extremely different than TV Glenn and TV Maggie. In my opinion, off the top of my head, it first started at the prison for both of them. Comic Maggie would never be or do a lot of what TV Maggie did starting at that point. In the comic, especially during the prison, certain events that unfolded, Maggie was broken. By the time the prison story arc was done, she found out about everyone in her family essentially being dead, the last of her family, because she was dealing with death throughout in the prison. Well, before the prison, during the prison, after the prison. It was Herschel and her brother, I believe it was Billy, the last remaining family members of Maggie. And even though she was with Glenn and she loved Glenn, she hung herself because that was it. Glenn wasn't her world at that time. And then after that, some might say conveniently, she just decided after trying to hang herself that Glenn is her world. So then a little bit after that, Glenn and her were fighting because she was trying to hold on to him, and going on runs was dangerous. And then Glenn would eventually die. Maggie would be mourning at the Hilltop, and she's looking around at a leader that's not helping Rick Grimes, and she wants revenge in the comic. Now this is a very different Maggie than what we get on TV. Even Glenn. And this is why I argue so much that a lot of us that claim we're, I don't want to say claim, I sound like a dick, but a lot of us that think or feel like we were so emotionally stung, crippled, kicked in the gut when Glenn died. I remember it clearly because that's right when I was getting into the comic. I was reading the compendiums, and then I went Compendium 1, Compendium 2, right into the comic around issue 98, 99, and it was so hard trying to find the comics because I was all new to it. When Glenn died, I remember there was times where I resented the character and his choices, and he was being a little bitch, because Glenn ran the 2 times they needed him the most, and no one ever talks about that. They talk about his death, because his death was so brutal. It's like John F. Kennedy, whether, I don't want to get into politics, but there's a lot of people that are just easier on that man and his lifestyle because of how brutal his death was. It was filmed and we can see it. And I don't want to get into politics, you know what I mean? Definitely don't want to get into that. But there are a lot of people who just, because it's so visual and we can see it and it's brutal, they talk about him nicer. They might be drawn to him more. Similar with Glenn and how brutal it was. That might be a horrible comparison, but whatever. Fuck, I should have said something better. Anyway, Glenn, when the governor attacked, he fucking ran away. He ran away to Herschel's farm with Maggie and Andrea and Dale in the RV. They ran away. When Negan attacks Alexandria, Glenn and Maggie run away to the hilltop. Now, he's very apologetic, and he did do things for them. He put his life on the line a number of times. That is very true. And that's why I say, I really loved him when he pretended he got drunk and stole the guns at Alexandria. I really loved him then. But when he tuck-tailed and when he acted like a bitch and ran away, I was resenting the character. So he wasn't such a fan favorite, I feel, as the show. I really feel like our love for Glenn in the show rubs off, on the comic character. I believe those characters kind of share some of that love and hate, you know what I mean? And when it comes to Maggie and Glenn, they already have it set up perfect, not to keep Glenn alive, but as an option. The option's open to keep Glenn alive. And you'll never, ever, ever get me to believe that's not true. Because look they killed Denise. What does that do? That takes the doctor out of Alexandria. Alexandria is Maggie's home. She's pregnant. She's having problems with her pregnancy. You know what I mean? She can't go to the doctor because now the doctor's dead. She has to go to the hilltop. She might have more complications with the pregnancy, keeping her at the hilltop. This is an option, not a prediction. It's an option to take the story. And that's why I think a lot of the writing in The Walking Dead is very clever, because they keep options open and also set up storyline. You know what I mean? And I respect them for that. Now, keeping the option open for Maggie being at the hilltop allows them to keep Glenn alive if they so choose. If they keep Glenn alive, Glenn and Maggie are now at the hilltop. Now let's pretend if they keep Glenn alive, let's pretend he's not going to die, immediately after, because he still can die immediately after. Let's say they keep Glenn alive at the hilltop with Maggie. Maggie still has a purpose and reason now to fight against Negan, because she wants to, recreate civilization or restart it. She's having this child, and she's not going to have the baby under Negan's rule. No way, no hell, no way in hell is she going to have this baby under that psychopath's rule. So that's going to be her mission, to help Rick Grimes still. And no matter who they kill, if it's brutal, and it will be brutal, in front of Maggie, she's going to hold that against Negan. Now, she doesn't have to want blood and bloodlust as if it was Negan. I'm sorry, as if Negan kills Glenn. It doesn't have to be that vicious. It could be someone she just cares about. It could be anybody in that row, pretty much. And look how disgusted she was. Not disgusted, but look at her face when the hunters are killed. This is something that had to have happened. You know what I mean? And she acknowledges that when she snaps back at Gabriel. No, it's just four walls and a roof. He's like, this is the house of God. She's still disgusted, though, because it's horrible what this world has become. You know what I mean? So even though she's watching villains be dispatched, in a bloody way, the disgust is on her face. But she knows it's necessary. She understands what's happening. So does Glenn. But it's still something that they're still squeamish about in that aspect. You know what I mean? Their morality behind that, the reason, the choices they're forced to make. And when it comes to the person who kills anyone in that lineup, Maggie's going to resent Negan to a certain degree. And whether or not it's Glenn or someone else, all that does is change the level of resentment. You know what I mean? Let's say it's somebody she's not too connected to. She's going to resent them on a scale from 1 to 10. It'll be like a 3, but it's still resentment. And if it's Glenn, she'll resent them a 10. It'll be a max. But it's still resentment, so it doesn't matter. She's always going to resent Negan, always want revenge or whatever. And then more so as far as giving birth to and starting a family in this new world, again, she's not going to want to live that life under Negan's thumb. She's not going to want to do it, so she's going to want to aid Rick Grimes. Her frustration and her anger in the Hilltop's leader, who is not adequately helping Rick Grimes, is going to boil over, and you can remix new storyline to push her over the edge, to get her lined up with comic Maggie's storyline, hence doing something to lead the people to fight back or repel an attack against Alexandria that Negan does, and then help in that aspect. I don't want to get into comic spoilers, but I do feel like they leave the option open in the story to do multiple things. In my personal opinion right now, I think 90% of the fan base believes it's going to be Glenn and Abraham. I believe right now that, as I've believed shit for a while, that TV Glenn is such a good character for this death, because it is heartbreaking. You know, the actor himself has made Glenn charismatic, lovable, likable. You know, there's honor in that character. He is a symbol, in a way, that contains or represents the best of everyone in that group. He is the symbol for that group that represents the best of them. So for him to die is probably the most heartbreaking, in my opinion. But my argument is they don't have to. Not to push Maggie's story, they don't have to. But they could. But they don't have to. And I think at this point, like I said, 90% of the fan base believes it's him and someone else. This was a topic I really enjoyed, and I really wanted to get off my chest in its own isolated video. So thank you very much if you made it this far. I really like diving deep into these little topics. But I'm going to get to the mass amount of questions. Let's burn through these, and I'll upload a separate video containing those. What am I talking about? That video is going to come before this one. All right, I hope you enjoyed all the Q&As for today and the bonus videos, including this one. I'm going to shut up now. You give me your thoughts and opinions. What do you think about the Maggie and Glenn situation? And keep in mind, it doesn't hurt to skim back through the comic and look over the characters, because they are drastically different than their TV counterpart. Give me your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.